Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to do a brewery that is kind of Slovenian but also kind of Austrian. So we're going to return to Bad Radkersburg in Austria and we're doing another beer from Brauhaus Bevog. So this one comes from their Who Cares edition series, which is their more kind of experimental lot of beer, I guess you would say, and this is the Lumberjack IPA. So it comes in at 6.03%. The O3 of course is very important, but this seems to be a really quite highly rated beer. It had a good rating on Untappd, the number evades me at the moment, but it had a 97 overall and within the style when I checked it out on Rate Beer. As I always say, Rate Beer is not the gospel of how good your beer is going to be, but it does give you a kind of rough idea. And of course this was another beer that was sent to me by Bevog from Slovenia, and if he's sending me this beer, it is going to be a pretty good one. So once again, a huge thank you to Bevog for making this review possible, and I will also give a shout out as well to my Austrian friend Wolfgang, who does the channel Katzenfett. He's got some really nice food videos over there. He does beer reviews in German of course as well. I have been trying to encourage him to do a few English videos as well, but he keeps saying about he's not confident with his English and things, but when I've spoken to him he seems to be pretty good at it. I think it's just modesty, but make sure you check out his channel, particularly if you are a German speaker. He's got some really nice pork recipes and his beer reviews are pretty good as well, so make sure you check that out. So yeah, that's enough about that just now. As always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, of course, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews I've done from Bevog Brauhaus before. I think this is review number 4 that I'm doing from these guys. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, province, whatever you want. It's all in there. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there both from my Austrian beer reviews and from my Slovenian ones, and those are being added to whenever I can. And please do get in touch and let me know about some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys, and the support that you give the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Brauhaus Bevog then. So Bevog was founded back in 2013 by Slovenian Vasja Golar, who was a long-time home brewer before he decided to turn professional. So this brewery is located in Bad Radkersburg, a small village of about 1,300 people in Styria in the south of Austria. So the town's located a little bit to the southeast of Graz in Austria and also a little bit to the northeast of Maribor in the northern part of Slovenia. So the village sits on the Mur River, and that of course is what gives you the kind of dividing line between Austria and Slovenia, and it's twinned with the town of Gornja Radgona on the other side. So Vasja chose to open up his brewery in Austria because he said there was a lot of bureaucracy with trying to get the brewery going in Slovenia, and Bad Radkersburg was only 3 kilometers from his hometown in Slovenia. So the brewery are in the industrial part of town, but it's only a short walk to the main kind of Altstadt, if you like, in the town. So if you do find yourself in Bad Radkersburg, do make sure you take a little walk out to the industrial estate. And you'll find these guys fairly easily, but they've been expanding their brewing capacity ever since their inception, and they do have a really nice kind of pub and garden thing where you can go and sit and enjoy the Bevog beers. But this is probably the best known Slovenian craft beer, if you like, or I suppose, as I say, it's kind of partly Austrian, partly Slovenian if you want to get technical, but these guys are probably the best known Slovenian craft brewery that are out there at the moment. You can get these beers in quite a few different countries, and they are very highly rated as well. So just to list a few of the other beers that you can get from these guys, there's the Tak Paleo, which I've reviewed for you before, also the On Smoke Porter. That's a really nice one, I really enjoyed that. There's also the Krama IPA, which I'm sure I've reviewed as well, the Baja Oatmeal Stout, the Dietz Golden Ale, Rudin, which is a black IPA, and also the Hager, which is a barley wine. And Wolfgang said of course that he really loved the way I say Hager, so I'll need to get one of those and review that for you one time and dedicate the review to him. But yeah, as I say, Bevog are a really high standard brewery, and if you get the chance to try some of their beers, I do recommend that you do, and I've had a couple of these ones now. But that's all you need to know about the brewery. If you want to learn a little bit more about them, as I always do, the websites are in the description below, and you can go and read a little bit more for yourself. And I'll also put the link down to Wolfgang's channel in there as well, so do make sure you check out his channel if you are a German speaker. So yeah, I'll just like to have a little look at the artwork of this one before we open it up. It's the kind of typical style of artwork that you expect from Bevog. Of course, there you can see the Who Cares editions thing, and the Bevog symbol, which is on the bottle caps of their beers that are in bottles, is this kind of 1970s sort of psychedelic bee thing here. So it's quite nicely presented, this one. I do like the artwork that you get from Bevog, but without further ado then, let's get stuck into this beer and see how we get on. Yeah. So yeah, a nice little bit of smoky opening there, and we'll get it out into the grass. And right away, I'm getting some whiffs of some of these nice kind of tropical fruits. I do reckon maybe they've used Mosaic or Citra or something like that in here, maybe even some New Zealand hops, but we'll take a closer look at the aroma in a little minute. But as you can see, this beer's poured a really nice kind of hazy golden colour there. You can see it's got a little bit of an orangey tint to it as well. If I hold that right up to the camera there, you can see it does have a nice little bit of an orangey tint, but I think it's fair to say it's a kind of goldeny orange colour, this one. There's one or two big bubbles sticking to the side of the glass. You can see like loads of little teeny particles of sediment just floating around in this one, which is probably what's giving it its haze. And you can see it's got a few little bubbles just going up towards the bottom of that head there. The head when it came out was about 3/4 of a finger, but it's now gone down to be about half a finger, I would say. But yeah, it looks really nice, and it's kind of exactly what you would expect from an IPA, to be honest. It has the experience that you would, or the appearance rather, that you would expect from this style in my experience. So yeah, looks really nice. So let's have a closer look at the aroma then and see how we get on. Yeah, that's really nice. So yeah, with this one, you can smell a little bit of the malty presence in this one. There is a wee bit of a bready kind of pale malt character in there. There's a little bit of the kind of grassy notes that you would expect, so maybe there is some Slovenian hops in there. Generally, there are some higher acid Slovenian hops, such as the Styrian Wolf and things like that. I think Salaya might be one as well, if I'm remembering correctly. So there are some of these higher acid Slovenian hops, but to me, this beer, it does have a little bit of that distinctive noble hoppy character to it. The lower acid Slovenian hops, in my experience, do tend to smell quite similar to some of the German noble hop varieties, and the grassy notes and the slightly floral character you get from this beer does remind me a little bit of that. But on top of that, you definitely can get some of these nice fruity notes that you would expect from these higher alpha acid hops. So yeah, there's a bit of a kind of spicy floral note to this one, but there's a good little bit of tropical fruit in there. So yeah, there's a nice sort of the fruits in this one, there's a lot of fruity note in this one. It really leans towards the fruity side of things. All those other notes I've mentioned a second ago are quite subtle, but this one really is a sort of fruity, juicy IPA. There's a little bit of passion fruit in there, I think. You can smell a little bit of mango as well. I do reckon there's maybe some Citra and Simcoe in here, but it does have some of these lighter kind of tropical notes. There's maybe a wee bit of orange, like a kind of tangerine orange, which to me would suggest Mosaic more than anything else. I don't think there's some of the Slovenian higher acid hops in this one, because it's leaning a lot more to the tropical side of things. The kind of distinctive note that you would get from like Styrian Wolf, in my experience, was melon. And Salaya, I can't remember about Salaya. That's another hop that I need to get a little bit more used to. But it's got a lot of this kind of juicy, almost New Zealand hop fruit character to it. It's a very juicy smelling IPA, this, but a little bit of kind of pineapple, maybe some sort of peaches, and it has a little bit of that lighter apricot-y kind of almost papaya note in it as well. It really is leaning more towards these juicy tropical fruits rather than the slightly stronger passion fruits and grapefruits. There's not really a grapefruit aroma from this one. It does have a wee bit of passion fruit, I think, but that's quite subtle. I think it's mainly more a sort of mango-y note than the peaches, apricots, and all of this sort of thing. It's a really nice smelling beer, this one. As I always say, just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of your beer before you actually try it. But this one, definitely for me, in terms of the aroma, it really is leaning towards the kind of nice, fruity, juicy side of things. So yeah, but just take a little bit of time and enjoy this. This is always half the experience when it comes to whiskey and sake and things like that. But without further ado, let's get stuck into this beer. So once again, a huge thank you to Davor for sending me this beer. This one is the Lumberjack IPA from Bevog Brauhaus, his Who Cares Edition series. Na zdravie, Prost. Yeah, that's pretty nice actually. The thing that's surprising me about this is just how smooth it is. It's got a really quite distinctly smooth mouthfeel. It's not quite as crisp as some of the other ones that I've come across from these guys, which is quite interesting. It is a little bit of a change of pace. I use that phrase quite a lot on the channel, of course. But this one is nice. It's just slightly different from the ones that I've come across before. It wasn't quite what I was expecting. But yeah, in terms of an IPA, it certainly ticks all the boxes. It's fair to say that. So as I always say, sugar the beer around your palate a little bit and let your whole mouth adjust to it before you start analysing the flavour too much. So in terms of the malt base with this one, we'll go with that first, so you can feel a nice little bit of pale malty character just blanket the middle of your tongue there. There is a wee bit of a kind of cereally note to this one. I'm just picking up a little bit of that almost grainy bitterness in there. I'm getting a wee bit of biscuit sweetness right in the middle of my palate as well. But the malt base is fairly straight up on this one. There's not too much in the way of complexity to this one. But I'm feeling that sort of cereally note that it has. It does build a little bit, and there is just a little bit of a kind of bitter character coming out of the malt base on this one. But the hops, of course, is where the focus on this beer is. It really is leaning more towards the hoppy side of things. As I always say, you can get some IPAs that do tend to be a little bit more malty. But for me, this one's definitely all about the hops. And again, as I picked up with the aroma, it's got a really nice fruity, juicy character to it. To me, this one isn't going to blow your head in terms of IBUs. It's just got a nice bitterness that's kind of been the linchpin of the beer. It's just underpinning the whole thing. So in the back corners of the palate, there's a wee bit of earthiness there. As you come further forward, you can feel a little bit of that kind of floral, aromatic character coming out of there. It's not really piney resins that are coming out of this one. If there is any of that, it's very, very subtle. To me, it's a little bit more floral than anything else. It's a little bit more of a kind of spicy floral character. There maybe is a little bit of that kind of darker resinous flavour underneath, but to me, mainly a sort of spicy floral aromaticity with this one. And yeah, around the front curve of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of a sort of just that lighter kind of grassy note. It's almost a little bit of a lemongrassy character that's coming out of this one. I do suspect with this beer that they've probably used some of these more noble Slovenian hops as the bittering hops for this one, and they've probably put the other hops in a little bit later in the flavouring stage. I think it's usually 30 minutes before the end of the boil where you put in your sort of flavour hops, if you like, and I do suspect that this one they've maybe used some of these nice Slovenian noble hops as the bittering hop, and then the juicier hops a little bit later on. But that might be completely wrong, of course, but I'm speculating. But this is nicely done. In terms of the fruity side of things, as I always say, the fruits come out just behind the front curve of your palate. You get that little oily bubble, and you just feel these nice, juicy, fruity esters coming out of the beer. So yeah, with that, there is a little bit of I think there is a little bit of a slightly darker passion fruity flavour coming out of this one. It makes me think maybe there is a little bit of Simcoe in here, because you can just feel that area behind the front curve of your tongue. It does have a little bit of that darker, oily, tropical fruit note. It's definitely not grapefruit. It's not dark enough in flavour to be grapefruit. It does feel a little bit more like passion fruit. And as the flavour of the beer goes on, you start to get a few of these kind of lighter, more subtle tropical fruits coming out of the beer. Yeah, it's got a little bit of a sort of mangoey note. I do get a little bit of that almost tangerine orange, so I do wonder if they have used a little bit of a mosaic in this one, and that would also give you a little bit of the earthy presence in the back corners of the palate too. I'm finding that as I get more and more used to the flavour, that earthiness in the back corner of the palate comes out, and that is a kind of signature I've found in some cases of the mosaic. So I do suspect there's a little bit of mosaic in here, because it does have that little hint of a kind of tangerine orange. But as the flavour progresses, it's actually got a little bit of a kind of almost pineapple-y flavour to it, to be honest. Yeah, it's got just a little bit of this kind of pineapple note to it. It's not quite as diverse in the fruit flavours as I was expecting from the aroma. It does seem to be a little bit of passion fruit, a little bit of orange, and I think or tangerine rather, and then a little bit of pineapple. Maybe there's a wee bit of a kind of lychee note or something like that in there as well. But if it was lychees, then that would come from something like Citra, which would give you quite a distinct mango in my experience. But yeah, there's maybe a little bit of a sort of limey note to this one as well, which is quite interesting. But the mosaic hop will give you some of these more complex tropical notes, so maybe it's a straight up Simcoe and mosaic. IPA, this one. I'd be really interested to know the hops. They don't publish it, of course, but I do suspect there is a little bit of this. I do suspect there is some kind of Slovenian noble hop in there as well. Then maybe I think there's a bit of mosaic in there. I'm really not sure. I like guessing the hops, but the flavours for this one in terms of fruit, I think it's passion fruit, a little bit of pineapple later on, and there is definitely some tangerine in there. Maybe there's a little bit of a kind of apricot note, and I think some lime as well. But it's quite an interesting beer, this, and again, it kind of shows you that when they can do experimental beers that are the same standard as this, you know, it shows how good a brewery they actually are. But in terms of the rating it has on Rate Beer, I think that's fair for this one. You know, I do think it kind of lives up to that rating it has. I think obviously when this beer's come from Slovenia, it won't be at its freshest when I'm reviewing it for you, but I think it's only a couple of weeks old, so it's still in its kind of prime, if you like. But I think with the smoothness that this one has, this would be a really lovely beer to have on tap, actually. So hopefully I can try a couple of these Bevog beers at some point in Bad Radkersburg. That would be awesome. But as a canned beer, it comes across really well. The flavours that linger into the aftertaste of this one, there's a little bit of the malty character and that nice sort of floral aromatic bitterness. But overall, it's another really, really solid IPA from Bevog Brauhaus, and I certainly wouldn't expect anything less from these guys based on previous experiences. So if you get the chance to try this one, I do recommend you have a look at it. In terms of mouthfeel, this one, I would say that it's mid-bodied. It's actually very, very smooth, as I was saying. The carbonation on this one is very, very soft. It does have a little bit of an oily character to it, but at the same time, there is almost a little bit of a kind of creamy element to it as well. It almost has the same feel as some of these kind of hazy New England IPAs that you're getting. It has got a little bit of that almost creamy feel to it. There's a good little bit of hoppy bitterness there. There's a good bit of juicy fruit as well. As I say, it leans more towards the juicy fruit, but the hoppy bitterness just backs it up. And the malts mainly are quite smooth. There's not a lot of sweetness coming out of the malt base, but a little bit of an almost grainy bitterness there. And the earthiness and the grainy bitterness actually goes together quite well in this beer. But overall, like I said, it's fair to summarise this one as a pretty damn solid IPA, and you wouldn't expect anything less from Bevog. So yeah, it's been a really interesting one to review this. Thank you once again to Davor for sending me this beer. I hope you guys have enjoyed my take on it. And until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Do let me know your own thoughts on this beer if you have tried it as well. Do let me know what your favourite beers are from Bevog Brauhaus, of course, and hopefully I can review some of those for you in the near future. But thank you once again to Davor, and I will catch you guys very soon. It's been really cool to review another beer from Brauhaus Bevog. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll catch you really soon. Prost, na zdravie.